All right, you're all good to go.
Okay, so calling this meeting to order. And roll call. Jeff,
Here.
Robert,
Oh.
Lars,
Here.
Barbara,
Here.
and Margie here. Okay, and then I need to read the statement. This meeting is being conducted utilizing teleconferencing and electronic means consistent with the state of California executive orders regarding COVID-19 pandemic. Zoom and YouTube are being utilized for this meeting. In case of technical issues, meetings will be uploaded to the city website as soon as possible after this meeting. We will be conducting today's meeting in a virtual setting using Zoom. Public Art Committee members and staff are participating from remote locations, practicing appropriate social distancing. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting by use of Zoom as noted on the city's website and as noted on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak to the PAC may do so during public comment or may comment on agenda items during the discussion of each item and must be logged into Zoom. YouTube is a viewing only format. Anyone using abusive, vulgar, offensive, threatening, or harassing language, personal attacks of any kind, or offensive terms that target specific individuals or groups will be muted and removed from the meeting. Please do not abuse this new way to provide public comment. So, comments from the public regarding items not on the agenda. Statements of conflict of interest. Okay, so we will move on to the regular agenda. I just want to say that I spoke for quite a while with Carrie yesterday, and I appreciate everyone's patience. We know that there's a difficulty in limited staff, and Carrie and the staff are doing their best, as is your chairperson, and we all are. We are blessed for having an enthusiastic and wonderful committee, and everyone, just remember that everyone is doing their best and to serve our community and to serve art. So we will be talking a little bit about absences later on, so please keep this in mind, and thank you. Okay, so first item on the agenda listed is a sculpture garden update. And
I had a question, Margie,
yes, dear.
about the minutes.
Oh, yes, thank you. It wasn't on the agenda, but
I didn't see a link for the, I didn't see a link or a document for the minutes attached.
John.
It doesn't look like Carrie had added any approval of minutes for this meeting. That might be something that she adds on to the next meeting if we receive them in time before that next meeting. So I don't know if she's had a email from our minute people that track those. So currently, as of this meeting today, there are no approval of minutes for any previous meetings.
Okay.
Thank you for mentioning it, Jeff. And, you know, I think it's reflection of limited staff who are overstretched and really doing their best. And we, you know, if people have ways to help, that'd be great. Okay, so the list on the agenda is a little different than I had expected, but anyway, Ives Park Sculpture Garden update. So Carrie said she has communicated with all those who have already submitted the sculpture proposals by the original deadline, and they're all fine with the updates. And she sent, I think, us all the ones that we have so far. And again, the deadline is the 24th of May. There's one who may revise her submission, Rose Gitlin, and one who would need to coordinate installation after June 18. The signage is not installed yet, although I asked her about that. She didn't realize that the ones on the individual sculptures had not been installed, and she said she would check in about that. And also to find out what is happening with the larger sign. And maybe Lars, do you have any information on that?
No information on that.
No information. Okay, so things move slowly and we all are learning great patience.
I have a question, Margie.
Yes.
Do we have a number of submissions at this point?
Yes, of the number that there are. It's 3 or 4. And did you all get the resend, or I will send again to you, because I asked Carrie and she sent me when I thought she'd sent it to everyone of the submissions. No?
No.
No, okay, I will resend. And I'm trying to remember if it's 3 or 4, and I don't, but we're hoping and expecting more before the deadline.
Thank you.
Okay. And again, later in the agenda, we have discussion of the opening ceremony and the signage. So I'm trying to go in order of the agenda that was sent out. Library sculpture, dedication ceremony, reception. Barbara?
Yes,
Thank you.
I met with Matthew last week on the 27th of April. But let me just back up and let you know that I've been curating the exhibits in the forum room for quite some time, a few years now. I'm just have a new member to my little committee. It's all volunteer. We do the best we can, as well as everybody else, in finding people, installing the exhibits, publicizing them, and being there the day of the opening. We used to have a whole docent program, but we no longer do. In any case, this is considered one of those openings, Michael McGinnis's reception, and I need to ask you all what the role the city played in the choice and installation of that piece called Gray Matter. Could you tell me? Michael, Matthew wasn't aware of the full responsibility of the library nor the city.
Okay, so the city council approved what the PAC recommended. The sculpture.
Let me
yes.
back up even further.
Yes.
Was PAC involved in how was PAC involved in that piece?
That it was created by PAC.
Okay.
The whole process. That is the function, one of the major functions of the PAC.
Okay.
This was the second commissioned art process that the PAC initiated, which is its, as I say, one of its major functions. And we put out a call, we got submissions, we went over them, we debated and selected the initial few that I think was 4, I'm not sure. And then I think there was a public meeting. I know on the first one there was, and we selected as a group, voted on and selected Michael's and we also selected the site. So the library cooperated, supported, and is, from what I've heard, was very pleased to have the sculpture there. That was our decision as the PAC. And it was confirmed and approved by the city council.
Okay, so the site then was chosen by the city.
No, it was approved by the city. It was chosen by the PAC.
Okay, so how, was that just part of?
Yes,
Okay, got it.
that's
all
our
right.
function.
Okay, so yes, Jeff.
I just had a question. I'm wondering, because of our fairly packed agenda, if your questions could be
Okay,
answered via
great.
email with Margie and or Lars. I'm not sure, being the more veteran members, how much of the
Okay.
history of that piece they have. Would that work for you, Barbara?
That's fine. Thank you. That's great. That's a good idea.
And just let me mention that in terms of the history
Mhm.
of what the PAC has done, there's been a number of questions that people have asked that have already been discussed by the PAC and decisions made and so on. And people don't know because we're not here then. So
Mhm.
we need to think about how to keep people up to date. And that's another time, another item.
All right, I think the background might be helpful in my returning to Matthew at the library to see what our roles are for this opening.
Yes,
which will
please
be-
just communicate with me and with Lars.
Okay, so the July 19th is the date that has been chosen by the library, approved by Michael, and now to you all.
Wow, okay.
So that's a Tuesday evening
Yeah,
from 6 to 8. The questions are who is responsible for publicizing it, for refreshments, etc. And it will probably be outside on the courtyard. The library has a PA system. But we don't, at this point, don't know who's going to, if we do have beverages or food, appetizers, who's responsible for those, etc. So if somebody on this committee wants to work with me on that, I'd be happy to, or I'll take it on myself. But I've already, that date was of many, the most immediate and possible.
okay. There is, Carrie said, budgeted funds for
Yes.
food.
Yeah, so she did mention that to me as well for food and other services. Obviously, non-alcoholic beverages would be supplied within that budget. So we just need to know what that cost would be so we can budget that appropriately.
Okay, good.
And
Thank you.
as far as PR, I think outreach, it would be both. And let me just say about the date. We did not expect, when I was talking to Carrie, that it would be in July. We thought it would be in June. And that's around the time we were thinking of doing the opening for the sculpture garden. So we need to think on that. I understand you came to that date, so we probably should use it, but I just want to let you know that.
Mhm. Okay, well, that's the date that was the first date that was possible via the library.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, it might be advantageous to have them both in the same, week or so, but just to get that buzz going and
Yeah.
advertise it both. The library does have a design department that has their own posters designed. Michael's going to find out if they can do this one, which would be really helpful. So that it's always well done, and he's getting back to me on that one.
Excellent.
So it was the
Okay.
19th of July, you said?
Uh-huh.
Great.
From 6 to 8.
Okay.
And is there someone who wants to volunteer to help and work with Barbara on this?
Okay, well, it should be not too much of a difficult, the library is very helpful, and
Okay,
another person on the committee with me, so that'll be fine.
thank you, Barbara.
Mhm.
Okay, moving on, then it says subcommittees, open ceremony needs subcommittees, non-member associates. Now, we just talked about the opening ceremony for the library. So it's not clear from what she wrote down about that. I thought this was going to be for June, the opening, but for the sculpture garden, The work that needs to be done is finalizing a date and time. We have previously talked about a Saturday, like at around 1 p.m. At the site would be the garden itself. So we would need to communicate and set up speakers, would be the mayor, hopefully, the PAC chair, introduction of the sculptors. And I don't have any other on that list. We did talk about having the sculptors do like an Ignite type quick presentation, which is very energetic, giving them each about 3 to 5 minutes. We can decide on the number to talk about something that they're impassioned about, hopefully about the sculpture and art, or otherwise to kind of introduce themselves, present themselves. And also the community sculpture creation. There is, again, in the budget, some funds for materials, and we need to coordinate that. The sculptors did say that they would be happy to lead that creation. Meet and talk with the sculptors at their sculptures. And the food we have previously discussed, and I talked with Carrie again. She also felt that we should not have food. It's just asking for difficulty and mess in the park, but possibly, you know, having a string quartet, something like that, if we decide that's what we want. And then, of course, publicity and outreach. So those are the things that need to get done. I don't know how much of that we can do today, but maybe have our subcommittee set up. I think we discussed this last time to some extent. So any comments, questions?
I had a question first. I don't know if you, John, or Margie, or someone is able to pull up our updated timeline for the sculpture garden.
We did not have an updated installation yet, and we didn't have an updated, as far as I can recall, unless someone else does better, opening event. And now we're looking, because we were thinking when I was talking with Carrie about July, because we thought we have the 24th of May, then we have our June meeting when we will do the selection, which is on June 1st. So here's a little bit of dates. And then June 7th, the city council can approve that or not, as they choose. But anyway, that's on their agenda. It's already on their agenda. And so we have from June 7, and we'll need installation. And we need to coordinate with the artists, the chosen artists on that. And then, so that's why we were thinking, well, opening in the early July.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking in terms of the library art opening and, you know, potential squeeze in terms of accomplishing both of those events, and also being able to announce an opening for the CSG at the library opening, because I would imagine most of that same crowd would probably also attend the sculpture garden opening.
Well, I think Barbara, I like Barbara's point about doing them near each other, just for that sense of the buzz, as long as we have the resources or to pull them both off. But it sounds like we have the library can help on one end. I was going to ask, I know we've talked about this, but what is the Center for the Arts doing for this opening, or if anything? Are they participating or helping or what?
Yes.
Didn't we have a conversation about using that back patio for art making during the opening reception?
Mhm.
That was during the winter time, of course, when we initially thought of that, and that it had been very cold, etc. But to possibly revisit that.
So you're thinking there would be better than if the weather, since the weather will probably be good, doing it outdoors?
No, well, that's two separate things. The opening reception dedication.
No, I mean the art making.
Oh, well, I don't know. It's just a nice enclosed area. I mean, it's a nice defined area. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't have any walls. It's just a nice space to be able to do things instead of spreading out all over into the park.
Mhm.
It's easier, I think, to set up tables and to have people visiting one another, etc.
Mhm.
It's a little more manageable.
Okay, so we would need, as before, we would need to, one, reserve that and pay for it. So that's possible if that's what the committee wants to do.
Do you
So,
think
so the Center for the Arts doesn't want any part of this opening? Like they would make us pay for that space?
Uh,
That seems a little strange to me.
so when we're going to do it during the winter, if you maybe remember, and there was concern about weather. I was in communication with the art center, and you know, they were enthusiastic. There was a fee, and then Carrie said that the city has a different fee, and so there was kind of like that little bit of a negotiation going on, but we didn't get final because we moved things forward so that we would not need to use that space because of weather.
You're talking about the inside.
That patio, the one overlooking the park.
Oh, so the exterior patio is still a rentable space.
Yes.
Okay.
So yes, there at this point there would be some fee, and that again, just you were here, Ilar, so you may remember, but the others don't know. So that the CSG is a PAC project. It's not a art center project.
No, I know, of course, but
Yeah.
we're right outside their
We're right
door.
outside, and
Why
they're
would-
enthusiastic about it.
Yeah,
And
And
some
they're-
of it is on their property, and I am willing to lobby for the fee to go away.
great?
Okay.
I mean, it
You'll have-
seems the fee can't be that much, I imagine, like that would be seems like a perfect way for them to, a minimal way for them to participate is say, we'll waive that.
I certainly agree, and for what influence I continue to have there, I will attempt to get that rectified when we have a date.
Okay, so the date we had originally, by the way, I have written down here, was the 18th of June, which is a Saturday.
Then we switched to July 23rd.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay,
I think it would be a nice opportunity to have an association with the Arts Center, you know, not necessarily co-sponsoring, but literally, but figuratively, because a lot of people will be in that area since it's right next door to the park, and it might be helpful for them to get involved more.
so Robert, so in communication rather than, you know, lobbying, just to see about connecting for the event.
I wasn't going to use the term lobby when I do it.
But I mean, just a kind of the general general idea,
Yes,
which
of
is that
course.
we're inviting them
I
to
understand.
be connected with the opening event.
Of course.
I don't know about co-sponsor. I think that they
Well-
did not, that's asking in a way, putting some weight on them they did not want.
Invitation
Well-
sounds much nicer.
Yeah.
Right, to participate and join us in celebrating.
Another thing that we could give them a minute or two, during the intro at some point, let them do their own little promo. It's kind of, a
Mhm,
quid pro quo, so to speak.
Certainly.
That's a good idea.
mhm,
Okay, so that could be one of the speakers, if we could do it that way.
mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's about the arts.
Mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
I mean, there are many groups that are about the arts that are local. And I think it's fine to just have just the Art Center on the speaker list.
Oh,
But
I
we can
agree.
introduce people, and we will be inviting and trying to have different groups at the opening. Okay, so in terms of a date, anybody, so should we, the 23rd, so the thing is the 19th, which is the Tuesday, and the 23rd is that Saturday. So we want to basically keep aiming on that?
That sounds good.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Do we think that we can get all the sculptures in and installed then?
I think so, because the approval is on the 7th of June.
Okay,
That's over a month. It's to give for installation. And what we did with the installation before was we had, I think, like Jeff and Barbara would know even more. I think we had a week within which we said, when would you like to be? And then we organized that and gave each person a slot.
And the
okay.
city was very helpful in complying with all that.
Yeah. And so we will need to organize an outreach and the community sculpture making. And just the overall schedule of the events organization. So one of the things that we have on the agenda, which has actually been in talking with Carrie, was moved to a future discussion, was non-member associates participation, and where we had come to in talking with Carrie yesterday was to wait for identification of those who were interested in doing this and projects needing and appropriate for subcommittees participation. But I think if you all think about it, so for the opening in July, for the CSG opening, those three functions, the outreach, the sculpture making, and the events organization, it would be helpful to have participation by the PAC members as willing to be on and run those subcommittees, rather than just have one person do it all. So any comments?
Okay, so you have that broken down, Margie, as art making and what else with the three?
Outreach, publicity,
Okay,
sculpture making, and overall events organization. And I can certainly will work on the overall events organization.
Well, for what it's worth, I thought I was at least one of two people being responsible for the art installation.
Okay, great. Thank you, Robert.
When you say that, you're talking about art meaning
Oh,
the
do you mean the
sculpture
sculpture making?
jam type idea?
No,
Oh.
the sculptures for the garden, isn't that what we're talking about?
No,
no, we're talking about the event, the opening event.
Okay,
and thank you. We will talk about the installation next. But right now we were talking about the three subcommittees for the opening event for the sculpture garden.
I will volunteer to take on publicity.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I can do outreach.
Excellent.
So I would be interested in the art. So the art making part, we're talking about just like a table where people, there's supplies, people could create something while they're there.
Something specifically that could result in a sculpture that can be put on one of the platforms. That was the idea.
Well, so that, I mean, you really are talking about sculpture jam at the same time.
Yeah.
Well,
During,
Because
yeah,
there's some level of standards of what we're willing to put on one of the pedestals. And so whatever that work is needs to be supervised by somebody who's going to see that that's the result. And materials with some sort of design in mind ahead of time. I mean, we can't just throw a whole lot of materials there and expect something to come out of it that we want to put up.
I didn't realize that was going to be, there was a commitment to put anything on from that event onto a pedestal.
okay, that was the discussion. It doesn't have to be that way. That was the idea. And to reply to Robert, we had communicated with the sculptors who are now have their work. So that's now the 3 people, but there were 4. And Carol might be willing, I don't know. But anyway, they were all willing to lead that activity. So
Okay.
since they have created things that work.
Yeah.
And it is a consideration when we think about the sturdiness and of the sculpture, whether that's actually possible to do in one afternoon, so to create something like that.
So we clearly have this is not the first time this has been proposed, right? We have Sculpture Jam, that's been this tradition here. So how do they do it and how do they pull it off? We need that expertise on our committee here or on our effort, right? Like I couldn't do that myself. We couldn't, but it's been done before.
Well, 2 of the sculptors who are now, so Beth and
Jeffrey.
and company are Sculpture Jam people.
Right. So we need to, yeah, and you've said they've already agreed to, they're willing to do this. So we just need a conversation with them as to what that actually looks like.
Okay.
Seems
And
right.
yes.
My screen, I'm freezing. My screen's frozen.
Okay. If you can just there, at least we could hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I can communicate with Beth because I have been, and see and Jeff, see their ideas, and whether something can be viable for the pedestals is a question. And whether we want to do that, but that is something that we had discussed,
Yeah.
that there were there's 5 pedestals remaining, and we had discussed having 4 from the current crop, if there are 4 that we want to include. And then the 5th would be for this creation. So that's something that we can, check out with the Beth and Jeffrey.
Yeah, I think
And
it's still a good idea if it's viable. So if you can start that discussion with them, Margie,
yes, I
I'd be
will.
happy to help as we get closer, kind of more logistical help or something, but to understand, from their perspective, what does it mean to pull this off?
Great.
But do they have to
Great.
start on Friday, or do they have to start at 8 a.m. Saturday morning, to have, or can it actually start when the opening starts and it's done in an hour or 2? It's, what does that actually look like?
Right, and I'm willing to help with that too. There's obviously some phase of acquisition of materials that they envision needing to use, and fasteners and I don't know what all, but somebody's going to have a picture of it in mind. And I'm happy to work with that phase of it.
Great. And as I say, there are some funds allocated for this, for the materials.
Mhm.
How
Yes,
much
Jeff.
is that?
Oh, sorry. How much money? I don't know. We can find out.
Okay,
And since we're not using the money on food,
right.
yes, Jeff?
I was just going to add that, the involvement of any of the sculpture jammers would be a great example of a non-member associate participating in a subcommittee. Perhaps also, what's the maker project that's down there?
Oh, yeah, Chimera?
Yeah,
Yes,
Chimera.
okay.
There could be another potential contact that might have some input on the jam.
I can talk to Jim Wheaton because
And
they're our
maybe the-
neighbors.
Maybe the SCA, in conversation with them,
Yes,
might also be able to play a role.
and
So-
Art Start.
Wasn't the upcycle group something
An
we talked
upcycle.
about being involved?
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah, excellent. Yeah, I think it could be a wonderful, with a lot of energy, a lot of input, a lot of connection. And to have that on what happened to Barbara? She's gone. Barbara,
Yeah.
is she still? No,
She's
not.
gone at the moment.
Yeah, I
Okay,
believe she disconnected. So when she's available, let her back in.
okay.
Margie,
Yes, dear.
would you mind just reiterating the subcommittees for the CSG opening and
Yes,
who
thank
has
you.
volunteered to do what?
Excellent. Okay, so, and correct me if I'm wrong. So for outreach, we have Jeff and Barbara. So that's publicity and so on. For the community sculpture making, Lars and Robert. For overview of events and organization, myself, and I can do it myself, or if there's someone else who wants to do that with me.
Yeah, I will definitely be available, Margie, to help with any conversations about that. If you need a sounding board or
Thank you, Jeff. That's the setup. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Well done. Okay, and now let me look and see what else.
So Margie,
Yes.
so
Yes,
if these are our subcommittees and these are the leaders, then do we just reach out to this other list, this idea of other people that could help? When is that just when we get close to the event? Do we actually have this list of people, or where are we with that?
we have no list.
So the only list we have, I suppose, is there was, this came up because it seemed like there was a lot of people interested in even joining the pack. So did the city actually get names of people who wanted to apply and then there wasn't space for them, or no, it's just this kind of vague idea that there's people out there who want to help?
As far as I know, and John, let me know if you have other information, Carrie said there was no list. And maybe this can be something where we could begin to develop that, like on each committee.
Mhm.
Maybe, here's an idea. If there's someone that the subcommittee leaders from the PAC members say, this person could be really helpful, like someone just said, well, what about the people from Sculpture Jam? So at that point, in some fashion, that's appropriate, then you could maybe bring that back to the PAC and say, these people could be adjuncts.
Mhm. Okay, so it's sort of, we'll see how it develops as we start working on this.
Yeah, so maybe, in June when we meet, if you've been, the subcommittees have been working, and then they come up with, well, I'd like to bring this person on and as an adjunct in June, then the committee could say, great, or let's hold off on that or whatever. So that's an idea. We could put that on the agenda.
Okay. Great.
Um,
So we can talk about next absences from committee members while Barbara has disappeared. That seems appropriate.
Yeah.
well, we
touche.
tried to do that with you, Lance, for you when you weren't here, and people said, no, that's not really nice.
Point, case in point.
Some people said it wasn't nice.
Yeah, okay. So, what else? Yeah, and I think, okay, so that's great. So let's have those subcommittees work together before June.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yes.
So,
good.
well, one more
Yes,
one more
dear.
comment there, Margie. So the subcommittees for the CSG opening, that will continue on to the next meeting agenda so we can revisit that and gather any questions, et cetera, or information that each subcommittee head needs. And then we will also be receiving the information on the submissions prior to the June 7th. Is that correct? June 7th? Do I have the date correct? Meeting, thank you. So
That's
that
the city council.
we can
Yeah.
look
Good one.
over those submissions like we did the first round, and members can form their own critiques, et cetera, and questions for the June 7th meeting.
June 1st meeting.
June 1st meeting, okay.
June 7th is the city council.
Okay, and that's for their approval of our selections.
Right.
Hopefully, yes.
Got it.
Yes, that's, and we will decide at the June 7th meeting. Yeah. Good,
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
good. Thank you. By the way, this is a Sebastopol city t-shirt, which are available in the office. I just had to bring that in.
Yep.
So if you ask them, actually they're out of men's medium, but if you ask, they're going to be reordering those, and they're great in different colors.
We get
Okay.
one. We get one for complimentary because we serve on this committee.
I wish it was a good idea. I thought about that, and then everybody could get one complimentary. All the committees. I think it'd be great. Okay, well, we put that on the agenda.
We'll throw it into the budget.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, do that,
And,
please.
and I
All
don't
right.
need. I don't need two just because I'm on two committees. It's okay.
Okay,
One in each color.
so going on, what I'd like to do is, we have time, is insert here, if John, you can tell me if I have the authority to do this, a report. Oh, no, Barbara's not here. So
Yeah, we wouldn't
Okay.
be able to add anything without.
I can't. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we did have it kind of as, there was confusion around the agenda. So Robert and I just want to say Barbara attended the Creative Sonoma Creative meeting and wanted to share that with us. And there was a question whether there would be time for it, but we really wanted to hear from them. And then there was a question between Barbara and Robert about who would present. So she's not here now. Robert, can we wait till June? Or what do you think?
It's entirely up to you, but I can give you a brief.
Okay,
I mean, I think it's worth understanding what the fundamental of the meeting was. They were having a series of community meetings. And they have hired, obviously with county money, a consultant who works on a national basis with cities on what to do with their art budgets. Obviously, one of the questions that was brought up was, why doesn't the county have a 1% for art requirement on county building permits? And they don't, but obviously would like to have one. Certainly, there's a lot of winery construction and those sorts of things that go on county property. And So I didn't think that the meeting was ultimately important in the sense that they hired this guy and, you know, he certainly couldn't have cost less than $50,000 because he flew out from Philadelphia for a series of meetings, and he probably cost $100,000 and has experience with other cities and counties and ideas of what has worked other places. And I suspect that the reason for the meeting was really that part of what the consultant said to them is you need to do community outreach and get ideas from around the community. And so there were a few of us there, and we put out a few ideas like, you know, well, do we want, you know, coordination around the county? And is that, you know, murals or sculpture or whatever? And how do you involve the major players, the Voight Foundation and things like that? But I did not have the sense that, and I'm sorry, I've forgotten the lady's name who runs Creative Sonoma. Do you know, Margie?
It's Kristen Madsen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lovely, very impressive, very knowledgeable, lots of energy. And, you know, I don't think that there were any particular ideas raised in that meeting that they were unaware of or thought, oh, yeah, we really should put some emphasis there. I thought they were doing their due diligence.
Okay. Yeah, consultants. It's a big business.
I mean, the guy certainly was, you know, 15 years deep in doing this and knows a tremendous amount about what cities have been able to accomplish and how.
Good. Well, the relationship between the city PACs and a possible county PAC or some sort of that, it sounds interesting to me and how that would be, you know, like, I mean, if a county PAC gets 1% on things that cities wouldn't get.
Yeah.
Then, but in order to put artwork up, it would need to go in a city or a city's environment.
Why would it need to be in a city?
Where are you thinking
Well, I
the
mean,
county is made up of cities,
no,
There's a lot of unincorporated.
No,
parts.
unincorporated. Okay,
there's a million acres in Sonoma County, the vast majority of which is not within city borders.
I
Right.
see what you mean.
So,
Okay, thank you.
And certainly Creative Sonoma itself would be the PAC for the county. They wouldn't, didn't hear anything and don't think they would be looking to form some separate committee or sub-organization to do that sort of thing. And, you know, depending on the nature of it and depending on the RFP that's put out, maybe sculptures would go in county parks, like Warren Arnold's whale sculptures, one of which is in a county park.
Thank you. Excellent. Yeah.
And so, and, you know, our rule allows the owner of a property that is paying the 1% to put the art on their property.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Blackbirds on the yellow building near the corner of Bodega and Petaluma Hill Road. And as I recall, Barney just said, you know, I don't want to have to ask you guys what it is. Here's the money, you decide, leave me alone.
Well, there's a history.
I know.
No, I mean that there's a certain thing that a history of what actually happened there. Yeah.
Yeah, I was, anyway.
Anyway, okay.
So if it's a winery that's building a $10 million thing and putting $100,000 budget into that kind of thing, they might want to spend it on their own property.
So was there any follow-up next step in terms of this county PAC relationship with city PACs and unincorporated areas and parks?
No, not at all.
No follow-up. Okay. All right. So maybe, you know, one of the things that I have on my list, and I think we do have somewhere on the agenda, is networking. Us networking. And so that could be part of that, is continuing that discussion with Creative Sonoma.
To what end?
To actually realize the kind of thing you're describing.
Well, of course, the starting point for that is them getting the Board of Supervisors to do whatever it is to get an ordinance that charges the 1%.
Mhm.
And
And are they
I don't
working
think-
on that?
I think they will, yes.
Okay.
I mean, that was sort of the obvious issue. Is it's all well and good to use this consultant and talk about what you'd like to see for art around the county, but where's the money?
Okay. Thank you. And we can, you know, check in with you and Barbara and see if we need to discuss it further in June.
She may have a different take.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So next is, okay, so you need to also have time for planning department. Oh, there is no planning department report, or is there, John?
Yeah, I do have kind of an update on city council's meeting last night regarding the format for meetings going forward. They did review like a hybrid format, all back full in person. It looks like they're going to continue the Zoom format for city council, and then that would also relate to all the other boards and commissions and committees until the fall, and then revisit that again. So that might be something within the next meeting or two that Carrie gets put on the agenda for a discussion item for the Public Arts Committee as to how you guys would like to do the meeting format going forward. If it would be renting out a room at the community center or youth annex or wherever we're able to rent out a space, because they are reconfiguring the conference room at City Hall. So within the next few months, that's not going to be an option as a meeting location. So we'll have to look at different locations. So.
Okay, thank you. Any and the NED report.
But before you go
Yep.
there, so do you know why they made this decision? Just punching it because it's too hard to come up with a hybrid option.
What? One more time.
Sorry,
You're
broke
cut
up.
out.
Yeah, so I guess they're just punting it to the fall because it's just too hard to come up with a hybrid version, is my guess. Like, why would we not want to be back in person as soon as we could be back in person? Makes sense to me.
So there's, with the hybrid, there's a technology sort of setup that needs to be done. I believe they're supposed to be having a walkthrough with a company within the next month or so to take a look at doing their city council meetings at, I believe, the community center or wherever they've done them in the past. But a lot of the members of the public that were still in attendance last night really pushed for the Zoom portion of it because it made it easier for some folks to do public comment and participate and whatnot.
Yeah.
In that regard, but having, potential staff and council members or board members in person, and then still having, the Zoom format for the public participation could also be an option, because the city overall has seen an uptick in public participation with this style format.
Right.
Posted before.
And we could we as a committee though do our own thing? Because we have no public participation basically, or very little.
I would have to check with Carrie on that. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, the couple that I've been here, I haven't seen any public participation on that aspect. So I don't think it would be an issue of doing it all in person.
Is there any
it would be-
discussion about, safety in terms of the COVID?
Yeah, so a lot of the whatever the current health standards and county restrictions that are still in place, I believe would still apply as far as distancing and whatnot. So that's another consideration to keep in mind is, we couldn't all just jam into a small closet somewhere. We'd have to still, go by that. And, if people still aren't comfortable in that setting yet, then, we can't force them to, if people still want to wear masks when masks aren't required anymore, then that's their right to. So,
And if people want to continue on Zoom?
I think that would be the hybrid format where,
Mhm.
the folks that still want to do the Zoom portion of it would just kind of keep in the current format that we are right now, and then everybody else would be in person, and we'd have that kind of that's essentially what the hybrid format
Mhm.
would be.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
So-
Thank you.
Jeff?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a little confused. Did we skip E, F, G and go to 7?
I did, and I'm sorry. Let's go back.
Okay, great.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Okay, so so the next thing is absences from committee members and staff. And I did have a conversation with Carrie about that. And the idea is to see ideas from the rest of the pack in terms of communication. So if a member of the committee has to be out of contact, not and or out of a meeting, missing a meeting for a month or more, or a number of weeks, if that person is involved in business and has information and so on, how do we want to handle that so that we have some guideline? And similarly for staff, given that they're still struggling with shortages. And so, for instance, Rebecca was doing an immense amount of the things that John and Carrie now have to be also doing. So in my when we began, I was talking a little bit about that, and so that things become sometimes difficult. So some sort of format, if someone is in the staff and is involved and taking care and has information that's important for the PAC, and they suddenly or with foreknowledge have to not be in contact. How would we like to handle that so that things can be as optimal as possible? So any ideas and comments?
Can I just ask where this is coming from?
Sure. Carrie was out, and we were in the middle of doing a number of things, and she was emailing, and then suddenly there was an email saying, Barbara. Suddenly there was an email saying that she would not be available. She thinks it was for a week, and I looked at the timing on that. It was 2 weeks. So at that point, nobody knew that this was going to happen, for one thing. And there was so she said, ask John, John will help. But there was a lot of information John didn't have and that he was not authorized or couldn't do. And he did really helped as much as he could, did really wonderfully. And Holly Hunter stepped in. But there was a lot. Welcome back, Barbara.
Wow, thank you. I don't know. Once things break down, it's really awful. So thank you for your patience.
Apropos statement. Yeah, so there was a lot of scrambling and we were saying, do you know what's happening? Do you know? Da, 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 and nobody knew. And so how in the future, and this could happen with a committee member as well. So in the future, how can we make this work better for everyone?
I have a couple of comments. First of all, I think as far as a committee member goes and or a staff member, I think normally we do try to communicate about any tasks that we may have volunteered to do if we're absent for a meeting in the interim or leading up to that meeting. But if we didn't or didn't think we should, I would encourage that. And I think with staff and the challenges that the city's facing staff-wise, the hardest thing for me personally, and I think for the committee as well, has been when we meet and we set timelines, and then those timelines end up not working out because staff hasn't been able to accomplish certain things when we thought they might normally be able to. So I think communication, honest communication from the staff on, well, we need 2 more weeks, or we're going to need more time to really get that accomplished so that we as a PAC can really make decisions about dates and deadlines and how long it's going to take to accomplish something realistically.
Excellent. Thank you. Other comments?
I mean, I think it's, we're a volunteer organization and we sort of are doing the best we can. And we, as a committee, we can sort of cover each other in a sense. Like if someone's not here, we still have a quorum. It's part of the structure of a committee like this that the committee can march along if somebody's not here. And then we just have to, as best we can, if we have responsibilities, we pass those on or we keep people apprised of what's going on. I think that's a fairly organic process to me that we just have to trust will work. On the staff side, it's just, if they can't get to it, they can't get to it. I don't think there's anything we can do about that other than what Jeff just said. As much as they can communicate and let us know something's up or we can't get to it or it's going to be a month, that, again, we have to just trust that they will do that. I don't know that that there's any kind of protocol or rules or whatever to put in place that's going to change how a committee works. The only thing I would say is minutes are helpful, especially if you're not at a meeting. So whoever does the minutes, wherever that's structured with the city, the best time to get the minutes is like the week after the meeting, not the day of the meeting. That it's really it should be part of a process that keeps everybody in the loop of what happened and therefore what will happen. So I missed a meeting. I have no idea what happened at that meeting. That should not be, Jeff or Margie or somebody calling me and telling me what happened. I think in the classic sense of a committee, it comes from the minutes and I review the minutes and then I know what happened.
Very good. Thank you.
But we should also take into account that you're talking about, have been talking about meeting in person again. And I have to say, I really like Zoom, in part because it's recorded. If I miss a meeting, I can simply watch it.
Well, they're recorded even before Zoom existed, before Zoom meetings existed, they were live streamed.
Okay. So that's the other way.
Yeah.
Besides the minutes, which are pretty short form.
Yeah.
If there's a discussion that you want to know about, you can go to the recording and fast forward to the section that you want to see.
That's good. That's right. Thank you, Robin.
Yeah, Jeff?
Yeah, another comment on the minutes, and I appreciate you bringing that up, Lars. We did have that discussion about rotating the minutes, I think primarily because of the staff's challenges. I would just want to know that if we do begin that, and today probably would have been an ideal time to do that, and perhaps Margie, you are taking some sort of minutes, that once staff is hopefully back up to speed in terms of the number of people they have, since we used to have Carrie and the associate planner like John present at every meeting, that we would then relinquish rotating the minutes back to city staff.
Yeah, but we don't know when that's going to happen. So this is especially, I mean, this for overall, but especially during, for however long this period continues. Yeah, yeah. So organizing the minutes would be helpful. Any other?
Remember-
Yeah,
I
Barbara.
remember there was some communication about that, and Robert, you had offered to take your turn in doing so. I think that's a good idea, but I think also almost relying upon the recordings as minutes if this doesn't work out between us as members. And I'm sorry, there's really something drastically wrong with my machine here, but because it's been doing this, but so I missed some. But my request to this committee, and it's going to be my request to every committee I'm on, is to really consolidate and condense the number and the information in emails. I'm just deluged with information via email, and it's so hard to keep track of it because I don't want to erase it. I put it in a file. It's hard to find. I think if we could just be sensitive to that, to maybe save up our ideas for a few days before we send something out. And I know I'm generalizing, but it's just personally difficult to manage that amount of communication that seems to be happening.
So do you have any other specific suggestions on emails, limiting emails?
Well, maybe once a week or only when it's crucial, or I'm not sure. That's a very difficult thing to try and organize or manage, but just to have the sensitivity of it, I think it's just to realize that if there are a few things going on, perhaps waiting until there's a way to consolidate those few things into one return message or something like that.
In terms of ideas, this is part of something that I would like to do on a future agenda is that people have wonderful ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And you yourself has brought up a number of them, which are terrific. And I want us to be able to have a way to have space for those ideas to be brought up and possibly used, but in a way that's not random. And as you're saying, doesn't take up a lot of email time. So that's something we've been talking about. I was bringing up a possible retreat that we've done before, and we can discuss that next meeting. But we have wonderful, I love people's enthusiasm and creativity, and I want to have space for that passion in a way that works.
I agree.
I had one last question about the minutes. I wonder if the city has technology or their access to an app that converts the audio to print. I know stuff like that exists. So.
Yeah, so I know that we do send our minutes to a person who does that and then sends them back for our review as far as grammar and other things like that. I don't know if we have a program or if the city's looking at doing something like that where we would just plug in the YouTube link or the Zoom link and then have it spit it out for us and not have to pay for that service anymore. That's something that I would feel comfortable having Carrie answer as far as if that's a budgetary item to include for some of the smaller committees or all the committees in general, rather than, inundating this one person with 9 different committee minutes on a regular basis.
Okay, so John, you'll ask Carrie about that then?
Yeah.
Great, thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah.
I know
yeah.
those apps our apps, programs, whatever, have existed for quite some time. And it would make sense to have something like that. If that's a plugin that we can add into our YouTube channel or something like that.
I think the videos are great, if you really want to see what the discussion was, but for someone who has missed a meeting to have to sit through, an hour and a half, it's easier to see something written that's condensed. And so I will volunteer to write up for this week. And Robert, did you volunteer? Could you do next week?
I'm sorry, volunteer to do what next week?
Write up minutes from the meeting and send them.
You mean next meeting?
Next
Next
month.
meeting, sorry, next meeting.
I'm happy to. You said that there was a format, which I
Oh.
presume is a Word document.
Yeah,
Oh.
Carrie shared something.
Robert, I can send you a previous approved minute document that we have.
Yeah, and then it's
you have an idea of what it would look like.
that would be great.
And send that to me
all of
also,
us.
would you? Oh, to all of us, yes.
Yeah, because we'll
And
be,
is it required that we strictly follow this format, or can I just kind of send people my notes on what we did?
I would say that it sticks to the format that we've used for previous minutes, just so there's a form of consistency.
Okay, all right.
On items there, because it kind of it just goes off of what the agenda is and then kind of fills in
Yeah,
the discussion points
okay.
on each agenda item.
So in terms of this discussion, we've discussed about working with minutes and asking us, the staff and other and committee members, to really be conscious and send updates, especially when timelines have shifted. Also, that if someone knows, or as soon as someone knows they're not going to be available, whether they're staff or committee member, to please inform the other people. And there are, whether they're going to be also any possibility if there's something significant that needs to be communicated, whether they would be available by email or phone while they're away. Because some people just, are at certain times, or turn off their devices, depending on why they're absent or unavailable.
excuse me, Margie,
Yes.
could we just back up a second to clarify the meeting, the minute taking?
Yes,
Are we all going to be expected to take turns to take minutes for each meeting? If so, then I think all of us getting that format and being prepared and how to do so would be helpful.
yes, John said he would send it to everyone.
Okay, so are we clear that we'll be taking turns to take the minutes for each meeting?
Any objections, discussion?
I thought that's what we had said we would do.
Okay, I'm just being clear. Thank you.
Okay, okay,
And for what it's worth, there are free online websites, Flixier, which automatically connects to your Zoom recording and gives you text.
Oh,
oh,
that's
Good to
cool.
know.
Flixier.
I can send everybody the link to that particular one, but I just Google search convert audio to text, and there's great gobs of it.
Great.
Yeah, as you'd expect.
is this a subscription thing, or is it just a
One
free
more
app?
thing.
Well, they tell you it's free, but then of course there's going to be a enhanced version.
Yeah, it's free for
Okay.
7 days.
Well, is that what it is, that one?
Well,
Oh,
typically.
you're just
yeah.
guessing, okay.
Right.
All
We
right,
could
so,
each do one, we just each subscribe every month. and
Yes,
just-
exactly.
Right.
Right.
No.
okay. Can I get next item? We have about 15 minutes. So discussion and interest of indoor art display at Sebastopol Library. This is my idea. And again, my understanding was we would put that forward to after the CSG opening.
It seems like we heard earlier that that's what Barbara's been doing for a while.
For years.
Yes, excellent. So
Keep doing that good work.
Yeah. I don't need a computer very often.
yeah, so if there's some way that the PAC might be involved in that.
Mhm. Good.
Because I'm talking about, my idea was not the conference room. My idea is in the library, on the walls. Like we
Well-
had a sculpture available that was one of the mock-ups of one of the submissions. And
There's
it was
not a lot-
wonderful.
Well, there's not much room to do pedestals inside the library proper because there's so many people and it's easy to knock them
Yes.
over and things like
Yes.
that. So, I mean, I'm kind of speaking for Matthew, but there's so much activity in there. There's very little space.
There's
So we would
walls,
Pardon me?
the
Well,
walls.
can you want, then it has to be a hanging sculpture. And there are very few walls that are available. And I know this because we've tried to overflow some of the exhibits and those walls have priority to the teenagers because that's the only wall space is in their room and the adjoining walls. The rest of the wall space, if you go in, you'll notice that it's usually filled with information.
Okay,
Did you
let me
start
just
that?
say, I've been looking at this for a couple of years now, going
Mhm.
in and looking and thinking about it. So maybe we can discuss it
Okay,
otherwise.
all right. Well, the library is hoping to expand. That's good news.
Yeah, good. Okay, so
Hoping,
that's, probably the July or August meeting,
Okay,
depending.
I'll talk to Matthew more about that too then.
Okay, and I'd be glad to talk with the two of you or otherwise.
Okay,
Okay. Then the other is connecting with Art Start, which is part of networking from the PAC. And so again, that's something that I had thought we were not having on this agenda, but again, moving forward for discussion, because that's I think a rich vein to connect to
Yeah.
and to discuss.
can we be more, oh, sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
Just quickly, can we also add to that connecting with Art Start and local schools?
Oh, wonderful. Yes, this is networking. Actually, what I meant was networking, and it was inspired by Art Start. But yes, local schools, great.
That was my comment too. I think there's so much opportunity with local schools.
Yes, we actually talked about that in terms of the CSG and protecting from vandals is to go and do presentations in schools. You remember that?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe, if we had time in July. Okay. And then any other comments before we move on networking? Yes, Barbara.
No, it wasn't about networking, but since
Oh.
I was gone from the meeting for so long, Robert, were you able to talk about the Creative Sonoma Public Art Countywide?
Yes, we
I
did.
did.
Okay,
I
great.
did.
Okay,
But,
never mind. Thank you.
If we have 10 minutes left and if we don't have something else on the agenda, I think it would be helpful to hear what your take on the meeting was.
Okay, we don't have time for that today,
Okay.
but we
Thank
can
you,
move
Robert.
that forward.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we were going to see if Barbara had more input. Okay, then the signage. I did mention that. Signage for outdoor public art. In general, within the city, we don't have time to discuss that. I don't know why that got put on. That's something, again, that I understood we would do in the future, but it's just so you all
Well,
know and start
the-
thinking about it.
The pending question was whether the county approves switching their sign to the back side of the same two posts.
For the CSG.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
John, do you know anything about that? Okay, well, we'll have to ask Carrie. She was handling it with them.
Yeah, unfortunately, no, I'm sorry about that.
I asked her about the signage and she said she didn't know what was happening with the entry signs, but she was going to check.
I was of the apologize later camp, but that's the way I am.
Okay, so yes, and the individual ones I think are made, and she didn't know why they hadn't been put up. She thought they had, but I looked, they weren't. So again, she was going to check on that. Agenda items for future meetings. Anything people want to, besides what we've already discussed? Yes, Barbara.
Creative Sonoma has a whole nother program besides this county public art thing, and it's called, God, I had the notes right here. I've been involved. I can't literally understand it. There are two phases. There's the artist has to apply, and then the artist has to find a site for their artwork, and they're encouraging public art organizations to get involved as the recipient. It's called Cohorts, and I'm going to be in touch with Kristen to get more information about it. I'd like to put it on the agenda though for the next meeting.
Okay, I don't know if we'll have time. We'll be doing the selection in the next meeting, but we will
that's
put
right.
it for the agenda at a future time. And if you can get more clarity and just maybe send
I
that
would, because
information
I'm-
out to everyone, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you, Barbara.
I'll make it really fast.
Okay. So any other additional things from the planning department? Ned's, Barbara, Carrie said that the something or other, something had been okayed, and she was being in touch with Ned. I have written down what it's called. There's a particular, here it is. No, there's a particular thing that it was some permit that was,
Some
Huh?
permit, you said?
yeah, I forget the name of it. She told me. Anyway, it's, you know, the geophysical. Engineering.
Geotechnical report. I think.
Thank
Yeah,
you. So she said that had been approved, and she was going to check in with Ned about getting him to, you know, what his schedule is in then fabricating.
great.
Any other, just let me see, John, any other planning department
Yeah,
report?
Lars and yourself, Margie, did come pick up some of those flyers. I still have quite a few at City Hall if you guys are
Okay.
for those.
Yes,
I
please.
printed them out myself, but I'll come and get some more.
Yeah, they're
Okay,
nice.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have some large scale format ones as well as 8.5 by 11.
Okay.
So I am here Monday through Thursday from 7 a.m. to 5:30. Friday we are closed. So if you are going to come down, just give me a call beforehand, and then I'll make sure that I open up the door for you guys.
Great. Thank you.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay,
Good question.
Jeff, yes, Jeff.
John or anyone, any updates on the Sebastopol hotel timeline?
Oh,
I believe it's still moving forward. I haven't heard anything new. I think the last time anything was spoken about it, their use permit was almost about to expire. But from my understanding, it's still slowly moving forward.
Mhm. I can address that. So a couple months ago, I reached out to the developer and the architect, and they both said it's moving ahead, and they will start construction this summer.
Oh.
And if you've noticed, they put their signs back up with the rendering on it.
mhm.
So, because I think, people were questioning it, but it sounds like they were just, the architect told me they were just tweaking a couple little things in the interiors, but that the project is going to start.
Lars, maybe you could remind them that they need to renew their use permit.
Oh, I think they've already done that.
Yeah.
You never
already
know,
done
boy.
that.
That would be a horrible story, huh?
But what I would say, like this is my view of it, that if anybody asks you, is it happening? You say yes. And the more people who do that, the more likely it'll happen.
Great.
Positive affirmation.
That's what I keep doing, because you just start to hear people, oh, it's never gonna happen. Like, no, it's happening. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, and any updates with that along down the road in terms of any of Ned Cons or any other art that's going to be used. We had some reports about that, and we've certainly seen Ned's pieces on display on that lot. But it'd be great to find out down the road which the hotel owners are planning to use. That'll be in view for the public.
Oh, and also, John, do you know
It's
anything
pretty
about?
much, it's, Jeff, it's pretty much the one that was been up there for a while that's kind of like a giant hammock in a sense. So
Mhm.
that is a prototype for a canopy structure above a second floor outdoor patio.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, I mean, that's the one that's been planned, and I don't think that it's changing.
Okay. Thank you.
John, do you know anything about the housing project that's in process across from the Sebastopol Lawn Cemetery?
Yeah.
Is that the Woodmark project or Huntley Square?
Huntley Square would be
Huntley
closer
Square,
to
yes.
across from the cemetery.
Yeah, so the Huntley Square project was approved by City Council on their March 1st meeting, and it's in design review right now. It's actually scheduled for the design review board for their next meeting on the 18th of May. So that'll be kind of the last step as far as review authority goes before it gets to building permit phase.
And is that going to be funds that possibly, if they don't do their own art, would be go to the PAC?
That I'm not sure. I don't know of any art included within their design proposal. But that project was kind of initiated before I even started here. So,
And do you know if there's any time or was time for public comment on traffic and parking?
yes, yeah. So all of that was addressed during the city council meeting when all of their entitlements for the zoning amendment, the use permit, tentative
that-
map, and all that kind of stuff.
That's already happened.
addressed.
That's passed.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. We have 1 minute. Anybody has something they need to say?
Thank you for your
Okay.
patience.
Huh?
Thank you all for your patience in my
All around, all around.
Mercury retrograde or whatever it is.
So, let's please communicate, but do communicate about during the month about the subcommittees for the CSG opening and otherwise. Communicate with me and or Carrie
Okay.
and
You guys
each
can feel
other.
free to CC me on those emails as well, just so I'm
Okay, great. Thank you.
aware of additional items if Carrie's not able to make the meeting.
Thank you so much, John.
Yeah, thank you
Okay,
for being here.
motion to adjourn,
I so move.
second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
I.
Aye, all opposed? Okay, good. We on the minute. Call this meeting adjourned and thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.